Mutant Chronicles, Fiction, The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 3, Dementia, by Michael A. Stackpole. Chapter 23. I returned to the cartel building the next morning after spending most of the evening just wandering around through parts of Lunacy. I consciously avoided known capital hangouts, mixed freely with people elsewhere. I reveled in my friendly anonymity and got used to my body. Aside from the loss of height, it seemed to function as well or better than the one I had been born with. And accepting it, I made peace with all but the very last smidgen of Parabellum Rex. Beach greeted me with a smile as the elevator opened to admit me to the Cybertronic annex. "Have you seen the morning's Chronicle?" I shook my head. "Something important?" "Cardinal himself has a letter on the editorial page." Ambassador Grayson fastened on a diamond earring as she came out of one of the annex apartments. "That letter means today should go much more easily." She extended her hand and I shook it firmly. "I understand you are responsible for Capital's reversal yesterday, Mr. Dent." I shrugged. McNeely led me to believe that Capital's tactics were a problem. I had some leverage and I used it. It seems to me, and I would like your opinion on this, that Capital's admitting Lorraine Coven exists is far from their agreeing to letting the cartel send people to take her back from Mars. The fox-faced woman gave me a smile that, had it been inviting, would have melted Parabellum Rex's brain. "Your assessment would be accurate were all this taking place in a vacuum. The Cardinal's letter is designed to bring pressure to bear on Capital and to reward Mishima for its support." "That must be some letter." Beach nodded and held a finger up. "It's got a lot of the normal Brotherhood nonsense in it about eternal vigilance, but the cogent piece comes in one simple paragraph. Quote, "As you know, brethren, the world is a complex place in which evil is able to cloak itself in a number of guises. There are ways to separate evil and good, and some of them yield pleasure in the discovery of the work of other good people like ourselves. I was recently acquainted with a Mishima product, the Dai Nui Bari sewing machine. In its solid construction and simple yet elegant functionality, it is a pure and rewarding tool. It will free your creativity so you may produce raiments that will celebrate the sanctity of life itself." My jaw dropped. That sort of advertising Mishima couldn't buy. Grayson nodded solemnly, but they did with Kentoro's statement. "Sales on the Dai Nui Bari are skyrocketing, and sales of our NDS 3000 and the Capital Betsy Ross seamstress machines have died." The implication is quite clear. The Brotherhood will not be ignored concerning Lorraine Coven, and Capital will pay dearly if they refuse to comply with the Brotherhood's wishes in this matter. I nodded. I imagine their wishes will be for an inquisitorial team to travel to Mars to bring Lorraine back. That's what they would like, but that's not what they will get, and they know it. Grayson ticked points off with her fingers. Mishima will lose face if they are not allowed to send even a token force along. Capital will claim the right to escort her because she is one of their citizens. And they'll probably have the unit that brought her from Luna, from Venus, to be the one to fetch her back. She looked up at me, and her brown eyes flashed mischievously. "And you'll be leading our team on the expedition." "Me?" I looked over at Beach. "He's got a lot more experience than I do." "I have other duties. Carl advanced you himself. Who else goes?" "Ash and the new chasseur, Jan Tarrant. It'll be her first mission." I frowned. "Who is she?" "I believe you first made her acquaintance in an alley about a week ago when you recruited her for us." "There's no way she's ready." I shook my head. Dr. Carter just put her back together a week ago. It took months before I was operational. I don't make assignments, Dent. I just report them. Beach shrugged. She didn't need as much work as you did, and we've not invested that much into her training so far. So she's expendable. You disagree? No, but I don't like the implication that Ash and I are as well. The ambassador laughed lightly. I don't think things will go so badly that any of you will be expended. The fact that Jan Tarrant, until a week ago, worked for Capital. She's bright, knows how they work, and can relate to many of their people. She might learn things you could not. The trip from Luna to Mars will take over a week, and we'll be on a Capital ship. So this could be an intelligence bonanza for us. That's fine, but I don't want to lose sight of the real goal here, getting Lorraine Coven back here so we can help her. Grayson smiled at Beach. I think Carl should recruit more idealists. I growled at both of them. Is that not our goal? Returning Lorraine Coven is the mission goal. Cybertronic's goal is to earn, through this joint effort, some respect from the Brotherhood. Normally they see us as the antithesis of Imperial, and view us as a great evil. Imperial's embarrassment in this whole contretemps has caused a slight rift between them and the Brotherhood. We may not gain much ground at this time, but even an inch would give us a toehold in our fight to reach some sort of understanding with the Brotherhood. I nodded slowly. I see that. I don't think the mission and our goal contradict each other. Grayson watched me closely. What will you do if a conflict arises? Which way will you jump? I gave her back my version of her earlier smile. I don't know, but the fun's in the not knowing. And that is why Carl only recruits idealists on a very limited basis. The cartel session went very much the way Grayson predicted. That was not because she was precognitive, but because she and her staff had worked throughout the night to put together the compromise she outlined. Bauhaus made a preemptive bid to upset the deal by offering to send a ship out of Mars to take custody of Lorraine in mid-flight, but Capital balked, and the Brotherhood, who could have been cut out by that plan, killed it. Everyone broke for lunch, and during that time, the cartel staff made arrangements for all team members to get together for a basic orientation meeting that afternoon. Somewhere, Cybertronic found a dark blue suit and a size to fit Ash. With a new body, there was no way to tell him apart from the old Ash, or, for that matter, any other Attila unit. He escorted Jan up to the annex, and, like him, she looked normal, except for wearing a better class of clothing than usual. In her case, she'd been given a cream-colored skirt, cut to knee length, and a white silken blouse to wear beneath the jacket. We exchanged greetings, and I saw no recognition flash in her eyes. As with all of us, our moment of death is lost. Normal brain function takes about 10 minutes to transfer information from short-term memory to medium-term and on into permanent storage. With head injuries and concussion, short-term amnesia is not unexpected. I would have been surprised if she even remembered the day she died. Of course, since Cybertronic did have a record of her death, it would be available to her whenever she wanted to fill in that last gap in her life story. I didn't have that luxury, since, to the best of my knowledge, no one at Cybertronic had been present to make me a record of my death. At this point, had such a thing been available, I think Carl would have given it to me to view. As he had not, I had to content myself with the realization that I'd never know how I died. And, as I told Ambassador Grayson, the fun is in not knowing. Whatever the staff had expected in bringing the various corporation contingents together, I think they were disappointed. Given the contentious nature of the cartel itself, they probably expected an instant battle between all of us. It could have happened, of course, but the sort of folks chosen for special missions invariably have egos. Of course, a run to Mars to bring a catatonic woman back to Luna was hardly the sort of heroic mission that suited itself to a grand investment of ego. It might be something that would be put on a resume, but only under miscellaneous projects. We were all present because of the need for our employers to maintain face and parity with each other, not because Lorraine needed so big an escort. The nature of the mission was not the reason we didn't fight, nor was our respect for each other, or our standing as professionals. Avoiding conflict for those reasons would have made us noble enough to warrant 2 whole paragraphs in a letter from the Cardinal, but the reality of the situation was a lot more basic. We didn't fight each other because we found many of us already knew each other. Mishima had chosen Yojimbo as its representative. Grayson mentioned the Overlord Mishima had handpicked Yojimbo, and Mishima's son, Lord Moya, had not opposed his father in this because Moya would have preferred to stay out of it entirely. In granting his father's request, Moya had hoped the mission would distract the old man enough that Moya could consolidate his position with Megacorporation. Yojimbo, an Overlord's agent, could not travel without retainers. He hired Pam Afton and Lane Chung to attend him. Seeing the 3 of them in the room heartened me, because they had risked their lives more than once to help Lorraine, if there ever did come a point when Lorraine's safety had to be put ahead of corporate ambitions. I knew I could count on them to help me out. Lane and Pam knew Captain Mitch Hunter, the leader of the Capital Group. Hunter had 8 other people with him, which matched Capital's people 1 for 1, with counterparts from each other's corporation, while leaving Mitch free to run the operation. Clad in Special Forces dress uniforms, Mitch and his squad looked uneasy until they welcomed their friends from the Mishima contingent. Yojimbo also knew one of the 2 Brotherhood representatives. Titus Gallicus's balding head, with its fringe of white hair, made him look to be the eldest member of the team. Tall and slender, he smiled sincerely enough to make me postpone my instinctive dislike for Brotherhood Inquisitors. The fact that he appeared to get along quite well with Yojimbo further eroded my reservations, but that still left me well shy of warming up to the man. In Titus's shadow walked the other Brotherhood agent. Though not as tall as Titus, she was even more skeletally slender than he was, while her black clothes and big black cloak draped over her shoulders revealed little about her body. The sharp angles of her face and the bony nature of her jaw and shoulders heightened an impression of androgyny. Her blonde white hair had been raggedly cut away from her face, and had she smiled at all, might have seemed a very chic sort of styling. Her expressionlessness, which ran from her dark eyes through her whole being, made me think of a snow-capped volcano, dormant on the outside, while seething on the inside. Her pale flesh was cold when I shook her hand. Titus introduced her as Inquisitor Scythia Scipio, but I suspected she was a mortificator. The Brotherhood's fanatical assassins were known to be ruthless and efficient. If the Brotherhood decided Lorraine was a trap, or of use to the Dark Legion in some way, I had no doubt that Scythia would kill her to save the rest of humanity. Despite the damper Scythia put on my mood, the team meeting almost immediately degenerated into a sort of story-swapping informality needed to allay suspicions and bind the group together. Aside from Ash, who did not have the programming necessary to tell a story, or to listen to one either, and the brooding Brotherhood witch, the team members mixed quite quickly and started getting along famously. This dismayed the staff. They had made attempts to usher us toward the far side of the room, where they had set up chairs and video screens for a briefing, but we wanted none of it. Almost without exception, all of us had participated in an earlier effort to rescue Lorraine Coven, so our stories were our bona fides, and also a sharing of experience from which other team members could benefit. The staff decided to appeal to a higher authority to get us organized. Since the mission was to be run under the cartel with a capital leader, they decided to get someone who could move the caps to the chairs and get the meeting started. Because I was standing toward the rear of the circle of friends, keeping an eye on Scythia, and because I headed up the Cybertronic delegation, I became the logical first target for the staff's attempt at coercion. The staffer gently tapped me on the shoulder. "Mr. Dent, I'd like to introduce you to the man who will be briefing you once things get underway." I turned and offered my hand before I'd seen to whom she referred. The other man took my hand and smiled down at me. "I'm Nicholas Kell." The jolt shook me, and Nick felt it through our grip. "I know, we've met." "Have we?" "In a previous life." I pumped his arm stoutly. "In a previous life, when I was your brother." Mutant Chronicles, Fiction: The Apostle of Insanity Trilogy, Volume 3, Dementia, by Michael A. Stackpole. Chapter 23. End.